In this presentation, we will generate, analyze, print, and export reports after having entered the beginning balances, which will include the balance sheet report, the trial balance report, and we'll take a look at a transaction detail report. A very good report for reviewing the data entry that has been entered either by ourselves or by others. Also might be a good report you want to think about for billing information if you're doing like accounting services and you're trying to think about, well, how am I going to bill someone hourly or so on. You might think about billing someone by transactions, being able to count basically the transactions. Time to clean up the books with Sage 50 Cloud Accounting. Here we are in our Get Great Guitars file. We want to take a look at the reports now after having entered the beginning balances. So we've taken our beginning balance information. This was our beginning balance, basically trial balance. We took this information, we entered it into the system, every account. We did basically one by one and put the other side to the equity section, in our case being the retained earnings, in this case being the capital count. So now let's open up those reports, double check those numbers, and then print them out for this section. So I'm going to then minimize this. We're going to go to the reporting drop down to do so. We're going to go to the financial statements. Let's start with there. We're going to open up the balance sheet. So if we open up the balance sheet, I'm going to make this for the current period. Let's make it for January. I'm making it for January. And then I'm going to say OK, and it'll generate that report for us. So here's what we have so far. We got the assets, checking account, the accounts receivable, the inventory, and then we have the property, plants, and equipment at the $75,000. Then the liabilities at the $15,000, the $1,000 for the credit card, and the current portion of the loan at $22,000. If we were to compare that to our trial balance over here, these are our beginning balance numbers. I think we should be in comparison with that. So there's the $25,000. See if I can make this side a little bigger so we can see it better. That's why I'm doing it bigger. So then we're going to say, here's the $25,000. That looks good. There's the $20,005. There's the $2,896. That looks good. We have the $75,000 there. The $15,000, the $1,000, the $22,000. And the big check figure you want down here is, of course, the equity section, because this one's gonna kind of be the other factor, the other side of things that should tie everything else out. And that's at the $85,396. That does indeed tie out, so we're looking good. I'm feeling confident that everything is in there as it should be. So I'm going to say that will be our balance sheet. We are going to go through and print these reports as we've seen in the past, but before we do so, let's kind of analyze all the reports. So I'm going to minimize this report, open up another one. So I'm going to minimize this one. The other one is going to be the trial balance. I do recommend getting used to the trial balance. I probably will be using it more and more as we move forward. It's a really nice account to go back and forth to check your numbers. So the trial balance is going to be under the general ledger working trial balance down below. We want the working trial balance. Then I'll typically adjust it. I don't need all these zero balances in there. It's nice that they do that because you may want to see the zero balances, but if you want to remove them, and one reason is it helps you to do the kind of the zoom in feature with the zero balances. But I'm going to remove them. I'm going to go to the options up top to do so, and then you're just going to untick this one off and that'll remove them. You could also filter your columns if you so choose. I'm not going to do that right now. And then I'm going to go to the periods, and once again we could be changing this to a specified date, and let's make it as of the end of January. So January, let's just make that, and there we go. And I'm going to save that. And so there's going to be our trial balance. Really not, look how easy it is to see this. You don't have all the subtotals. The report's going to be a lot smaller. You're not going to be able to compare, the total assets and the liabilities as easily, but you'll be able to kind of check a report very, very quickly. And so this is a really useful report to be considering. So that's going to be the trial balance. And you can also run the trial balance as of January 1st, which is probably because that's when we first entered the data. Now note that if any of your numbers do not tie out here, it may be a date issue. So try entering the date as of sometime in the future and see if there's any transactions or any account changes. And if there's an account that changes, then it's probably a date issue. Then you want to zoom into it and then check the actual transaction and see if it's a date issue and if you can then change the date issue and solve that problem. So there's going to be the trial balance. Now the other report is going to be the transaction type detail report. So I'm going to open up that one. Here's the general ledger. Once again, we want to take a look at the transaction detail reports. So let's open up the old transaction detail report, and then let's go to the options up top, and we're going to be changing the dates. So let's make it for the entire, I'm going to say all, because I want to see everything we've done thus far. And then include numbers of transactions. That's fine. I also want to see, I don't want it to be summarized. I want to see everything. So I'm going to uncheck the summarized report. And then sort ascending order, that's fine. And so I'm going to say OK. And then here we have our information. Now on the left hand side, we have the date, the fact that it's a journal entry. This is the transaction type. It seems like this information isn't as important because you're like, well, they're all journal entries. That's because, we've only entered journal entries so far. But later on, we'll have other type of transactions. We entered all of our beginning balances with journal entries. There's no reference here, so we could filter out these columns. I'm going to keep them for now. You can also filter them if you export this to Excel, like we'll take a look at. And if you want to make adjustments there, you can do so at that point too. Then we have the description. All of ours, of course, are the beginning balances. That's all we've entered thus far. The accounts, these are the accounts. So here are the numbers. If you want to take a look at the actual account, you could double click here, or to see the actual transaction, or check the chart of accounts. So if I was to double click, for example, on this, there is our chart of accounts, and then you could go into the chart of accounts here, or just take a look at your chart of accounts, and that'll help you out with the account numbers. So there is that. And just note that this report, if you take a look at this and everything ties out here, then you should be good on your financials. And so you want to check everything here and just make sure again that your dates line up. So I printed all dates. But all the dates that we have here are on January 1st because that's when we entered the data as of. So that's going to be our 3 reports we want to take a look at. Also note this report could be useful, like I say, if you want to bill somebody and you don't want to bill just by hours. You want to give them something a little bit more concrete. I feel like this is a bit more concrete if you were to say, hey, if you're between this many and that many transactions, then it costs this much and that much and so on. And that way you can print a report and actually look at the transactions. So I think that could be a useful way to think about billing. It's also a nice report to review somebody else's work. What have they been doing or what has been happening. You can actually review that fairly easily with the transaction detail report. All right, let's go ahead and print them out. We're going to print these out in a similar fashion as we have before. We'll have to do some adjusting and formatting to them like this report, which probably will not fit on one page. We're going to do our same setup. I'm going to go back to the balance sheet. I'm going to print it with a PDF file and then export it to Excel, and then think about how we can print multiple reports at one time and how we can save all of our reports to one PDF file if we so choose. So with the balance sheet then, we can save it as a PDF, we can email it, or we can export it to Excel. So those are our options. If you're going to email 3 reports, then you may want to save them first instead of having 3 separate emails with 3 separate reports, right? So I'm going to do that. I'm going to save it as a PDF and then save it as an Excel. So I'm going to print it as a PDF using the printer to practice using that Qt PDF printer. Here's the Qt PDF printer. I do suggest having some kind of PDF printer. This is a free one. Works well for me, so I would suggest having one so that you're able to print anytime you want to a PDF file. Being able to make a PDF then basically anytime you want. So then I'm going to select our drop down and say, all right, where do we want to put this? So where do we want it to go? Well, I'm going to put it into the Sage folder. I'm going to put a new folder in here. I'm going to call it section 6. So I'm just going to say this is going to be section, it's going to be section 6, like that. And then I'm going to put it into that one. That's the folder where I want to put it. And then I'm going to name this the balance sheet. So I'm going to say this is the balance sheet. All right. And then I'm going to save that. And then I'm also going to export it to Excel. I'm going to make a new Excel sheet. So I want to create a new Microsoft Excel worksheet. I'm not going to put it on the other worksheet that we were working with like last time. This is a totally new section here, new sheet. So I'm going to say OK. And it'll open up then a new Excel. This is not something you need like an integration for. This is something that normal the Sage 50 will have. But of course you will need the Excel in order for it to be picking this up. This is not the integration add-on feature. This is the normal kind of ability to export the report to Excel. And there it is. So if I make this report large and if I just check does it fit on one page, I usually go to the page layout view over here to check that, and it does. There's our title up top. Looks very nice. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'm not going to save it as the balance sheet, though. I'm going to save it as the financial statements or just reports, maybe, because I want to put the other reports on here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'm going to say save as. I'm going to put it in that that one folder where the other stuff was. That wasn't very descriptive. I'm going to put it into the section 6 folder, which is where the other reports that we have generated have been placed as of now. And then we're going to change the name, and I'm just going to call it reports, maybe beginning balances or something like that, just to have so I'm going to say save, and then I'm going to save the other reports to it. So I'm going to close this one back out, and then let's go back to our other reports. Then I'm going to go to our other report, which was, let's do the trial balance. So here's the trial balance. Let's go ahead and do the same thing here. I'm going to use the printer to make a PDF of it. So there's the PDF printer. I'm going to make a PDF of it. Now notice these have some added columns here, which I could kind of filter out in the report here, but that might be something easier, more easily done in something like Excel. So that's another kind of advantage. I mean, it's pretty quick and simple to delete those columns in Excel. So I'm going to say this is going to be a trial balance, because that's what it is. So that's what I'll call it. Trial balance. And then there we go. Let's export it to Excel as well. So I'll go to the Excel to do that as well. And then I'm going to put that in the second one this time, add a new worksheet to an existing Microsoft Excel workbook. That's what we want to do. But I don't think it's picking the right one this time, so I'm going to go in there and point to the other one, which is in section 6. So I want to pick that one up, and then I'll double click on that one. So that's the one, and then OK. Should then open up the Excel file we made like last time, and then put a new tab in the existing workbook, which is a new worksheet in the existing workbook, and then place this data, the trial balance, into it. There it did it, see? Did exactly what I was. So here we got it. If we go to the page layout tab, there is our information. And I'm going to go back on over to the first tab. Then again, we might not need these columns. So at this point, I could just say, I'll just get rid of these columns. So why don't I just like, I'm not going to spend a lot of time formatting Excel, but I'm just going to click on the rows, highlight across, that's the selected area, or select across, right click, and delete. So I'll delete those, because I don't want them. I don't want them. So, and then we can delete this one too, because this isn't really helping us. So I'm going to select C, right click on that one, on the selected area, and delete that too. So there we have that. And of course you could use formatting, like the negative numbers might not be something that is easily seen to you. It's not as easily seen to me. So I'm going to say format. Let's format the cells here. And I prefer to see brackets. So I might make it like a currency and then put brackets around the negative number. You can even make them red if you want, obviously. You probably know this already, but I'm just saying. And then I don't want the dollar sign. So then I'm going to say OK. And then, of course, that might help it to stand out a bit. So I'm going to save this. And let's go to our last report this time. I'm going to close this one back out. Close this back out. And then we're going to go back over and open up the last report. So that's going to be this one. So that's going to be this one. Same kind of process. I'm going to save it as print it as a PDF. But notice it's got a lot of junk in it. They got these columns as well. We could filter them. But I think it's kind of easier to do that in Excel, right? I'd rather just export it to Excel and then make the PDF from it. So I'll show you the two formats. I'm not editing it. I'm trying to print it. So I'm going to print it. I'm not going to edit it. I'm going to print it. And then we're going to go to the PDF file and we're going to say OK. And then it's going to ask us where we want to put it again. And it's going to go it's already going where we want it to go. It's already named what we want to name it. So I'm just going to say save it. And then I'm going to export it to Excel. So like we did last time, or with the other reports, and then we're going to go to the Excel. It's going to the right report, I think, this time. I'm not even going to check it. I'm pretty sure it's the right report. I'm going to say, OK, we're living dangerous. We're living dangerous. Hopefully it opens the right Excel document and makes a new worksheet in that existing workbook for the transaction detail report. And there it is. So if I maximize this, so then again, if I go to the second tab now, this one doesn't fit on one page, and that's a problem. So if it's 2 pages like long, I'm okay with that. But 2 pages wide. That's unacceptable. Unacceptable. So we're going to go back to the first tab, and we're going to make this acceptable by adjusting this. So what we'll do, I probably don't need is the number down here. I don't really need the man, that might be useful actually. But I don't need the other column, so I'm just going to delete these items. I'm going to right click and delete. So I'm just deleting the rows. And what I'm worried about is I want to delete the whole name column, and this number thing's kind of in the way. So do I want that or not? Maybe I pull it down. Maybe I grab that, and if it'll let me grab it and pull it down like over here somewhere. And so then we have our numbers, and then I can delete these rows. I don't need these rows, so I'm going to highlight from here on over and say those are not necessary. Right click and delete. And then that pretty much does it. I don't really need the IDs here as well, so I'm just going to highlight these and say let's delete that. So notice it's pretty easy to clean it up. It might be easier to clean it up here than to use the filters in Sage and then just save this as a PDF file, right? So I think that oftentimes it could be an option. And then of course, if you have the integrations, then you could save this report, and you could save that kind of option. So in any case, we're gonna save this. Now we could print this with the entire workbook and print them, and they'll already be collated and everything if we want to print like multiple copies. Or we could save it to a PDF file so that like one PDF file has all the reports on it. So we're going to go to the File tab then. We're going to go on down to Print. We're going to be using the Qt PDF printer to do this. And the key is down here. You don't want just the active worksheet, but the entire workbook. And that, of course, will give us the multiple pages, 5 pages. There's the balance sheet. There's the working trial balance. And there's the transaction detail report. Then we're going to be printing it to the Qt PDF printer. Again, if you sent this to an actual printer, then you can have it all set up and you don't have to do the collating thing, but because it'll print in order. If you could still mess it up, like if you don't know the printer settings, but it should print all in order instead of just like page 1, 1, 1, and 2, 2, 2. So there is that. Let me just check. We have some blank cells on this side for the transaction detail. Let me just take a look at that. Hold on a second. If we go back over here. Just kind of curious how it did that. I'm going to delete all the columns on this side and delete. And then let's delete below and see if we can get rid of that. That should be far enough. And see if it so now let's go back on over and go to the print and see if it got rid of those, like that added sheet that it was doing. So I don't need a blank sheet at the bottom. It's still there. Okay, I'm not going to get into it right now. Well, I'm going to save it as it is. But you might want to do more, if that was to happen, do more research on that. Otherwise, we'll have that extra page. That's okay. I'm going to go ahead and print it here. And then we're going to be putting that into our folder. So I think it's going to be going to the same folder. Report looks good, so let's save that. And then I'm going to minimize this. 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 I'm going to minimize. Let's close this. And then I'm going to minimize this. And then I'm going to go into our folder. So this is where we put it into the Sage folder. Now, if we were going to give this to somebody, pull this folder up into the current screen where we could see. And then if I go into section 6, we can then provide these reports, right? I'm going to make a new report. Or a new folder, and we can call this beginning balance reports. And then we can give this one by one to somebody, which would of course include the balance sheet that I would put in there, the transaction detail report, the trial balance. I can't get that. They won't let me grab the trial balance. There we go. Or we can zip this file and give it to somebody with one attachment, one zipped filed attachment by compressing the file. Or we can give them the PDF file with one PDF file with the multiple reports on it. So, and that would look like this. So we got all the reports, balance sheet, working trial balance, and so on. And it's got that blank page on the bottom, which is kind of annoying, but that's okay. And so that's it. So that's it for now. Let's get out of here.